Alright, I know, right now we are all obsessed with Pokopia, myself included. But while I was playing through it, I really got to thinking about how good most of the Pokemon spin-off games really are. And for as long as I can remember, I've been down bad for the first one I ever played, Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap was my first Nintendo 64 game, and believe it or not, it's still my favorite one to this day. I remember back when Ocarina of Time 3D got announced and the gaming world went crazy as one of the greatest games of all time was seeing a release on a modern console, and a handheld one at that. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the corner convincing myself that Pokemon Snap had to be next. It wasn't. Eventually the game would make its way to a modern console on Nintendo Switch Online, and look at that, handheld. And we even got a new iteration with new Pokemon Snap. But there is just something about the old version that has this timeless charm to it. Something that makes a 20-plus-year-old game still hold up today. For anyone that might not know, Pokemon Snap is essentially a shooter on rails, where you're armed with a camera, visiting 7 different stages and taking photos of the Pokemon that live there in order to help Professor Oak with his research. Think Pokédex from the mainline games, but you're just taking pictures of Pokemon instead of catching them. At age 6, playing this game for the first time felt like I was actually going on a Pokemon safari. I talk about this a little bit in my Pokemon Stadium video, but this was the first time that we saw Pokemon in a 3D space. And this game would have such an impact on world building for the franchise. In the mainline games, we had only seen Pokemon as sprites on our Game Boys and in the heat of battle, so it was super exciting to see how these wild creatures would just exist and interact with each other in their own natural habitats. There are interactions that just make sense and feel so rooted in the natures of these Pokemon that are presented on screen. I have played through this game so many times, have never used a guide, and I still somehow find new things in this game. Which is crazy to think about, by the way, considering we're working with only one generation of Pokemon, there are only 7 stages, and you're literally on a fixed path the entire time. So what is it that keeps me coming back? Nostalgia, sure, but it's also just good game design. When you can execute a simple idea so well, I think you get something that's going to stand the test of time regardless of graphic upgrades or frame rates or any of these modern things that we factor in when it comes to video games. And Pokemon Snap is a masterclass in using your limitations to your advantage, finding ways to make exploration possible even on a fixed path. So let's look at the first level, for example, Beach. Your first playthrough of this level, you are essentially on a theme park ride. You are passively engaged with the world of Pokemon. You see a flock of Pidgey, a Doduo jump scare, and also a chunky Pikachu. As you progress through the level with only your camera, all you can do is observe. You're able to take this first run of the beach to get familiar with the world, and more importantly with the controls, given breadcrumbs that make you think, maybe there's something more there. Like, what's up with that grass? Why is that surfboard there? After each excursion, you have to select your best photos of each Pokemon and present them to Professor Oak, who all of a sudden has become the ultimate photography critic. I've taken some photos that I was genuinely so proud of. They're so-so. He calls himself a professor but doesn't even know about the rule of thirds for shot composition. As he grades your photos, he gives you a score based on their size, their pose, how many Pokemon there are in the shot, and how big the Pokemon is in the photo. Once you gather a certain amount of points, Professor Oak will let out a "wait" that has echoed in my mind for 25 years now. Usually when he does this, he is going to give you access to an item that's going to help you out on your journey, starting with some fruit. Now once you get the item, you can choose to go on to the next level, but wait! I wonder what you could do with these apples at the beach, maybe. Huh? At this point in the game, you have the ability to shift from playing a passive role in the game to a more active role, where you can actually engage with your environment and cause reactions. This game is just filled with fun new things that you can discover with each item that Professor Oak gives you. Over time, you're going to add Pester Balls, a Pokeflute, and Turbo Boost to your tool belt. Minus Turbo Boost, each item you acquire unlocks new ways for Pokemon to interact with you and each other. But the discoveries don't stop there. After a certain point, Professor Oak mentions that there are signs hidden in each level. Signs are like structures and other phenomena that look a bit like a Pokemon when you look at them from just the right angle. Some of these are a little straightforward, like the giant Dugtrio mountain, but others really kind of make you squint your eyes and go, that toxic emission does kind of look like a coughing a little bit. There are so many hidden secrets in this game, and it's just really fun to experiment with your items and see what might happen. And the game does such a good job of rewarding you for trying something new. If you see a Pokemon walking around or a situation that looks a little suspicious, there is a solid chance that you can find some way to interact with it. You can make Pokemon evolve, wake up legendaries, launch like a Bullet Bill, do a cool flip, put on a show, so much more. But the beauty of this game though, and to be honest, the thing that I think keeps me coming back, is that you also don't have to do these things. If you feel like taking things slow, this game gives you a perfect space to relax and just take photos of Pokemon. That freedom of choice and providing a fulfilling experience for all types of players is part of what I think is making Pokopia so successful. Pokemon Snap has been something that I always find myself coming back to because of that calm. When I'm stressed or having a hard time, I often find myself turning to video games for comfort. And Pokemon Snap has always been one of those for me. I could talk forever about all of the little things that make me love this game, but I'd rather just encourage you to play it if you somehow are watching this and you haven't already. I would also encourage you to play without a guide. Trust me, it'll make things more fun. So that's it, everyone. My love letter to one of my favorite video games of all time. Because I just genuinely love this game, I want to know, what are some of your favorite interactions in Pokemon Snap? Also, funny enough, I have yet to play the new Pokemon Snap, but I do have it. So I'd love to play through it soon and see how they've evolved the playstyle of the original game and embraced modern hardware. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Bye-bye.